Well, hello everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another Tuesday stream. Let me get a little settled here. You will notice that I am not joined by John tonight. John is on vacation, which is fun and awesome. Everyone should get to go on vacation. But he's left me behind without him, so it's just me tonight. If you're tuning into the restream, welcome. Thanks for dropping by. It'll be a little bit different tonight, but it should be pretty fun. I'm just kind of getting settled here for the night. Let's see. It's Tuesday. Things are crazy. Still working from home. Life is different as always. It's a little warm here, but not as warm as it's been, which is nice and fun. Go ahead and let me know what you're warming up with yourselves. Let's see. There we go. I'm running solo, so I'm going to hit some of these buttons and try not to mess up too much, but I'm warming up. I have my first pour here, which is a little bit of bullet. We'll move on to the bullet barrel proof in a few minutes, but just wanted to catch up and see how everybody else was doing. Couple our bourbon barrel updates for you. The Russell's is moving along pretty nicely, which I think is awesome. That's moving along. I haven't heard of any snags there. That's my dog. There we go. You'll notice that I've continued to get quarantine haircuts, so they look worse and worse every single week, which is great. Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. Man, this is nice stuff. I usually don't have too much going on midweek here with whiskey, but I have some bullet that I'll warm up with here. Brown sugar, that's nice. So Russell's is going nicely. Smooth Ambler has been ordered, which I think is great. Those should be here in a couple of weeks. Beyond that, Knob Creek is coming along nicely well. Clarine, nice auditor. That's a great bottle, especially what the roaster's aged, right? Those are pretty fancy. Stag Junior Batch 30, 13. I've heard rumors that 14 is dropping soon, or that might have already. It definitely hasn't here in Wisconsin, but it'd be nice to see it soon. I think I've had all, 1 through 13 I've definitely had, so it'll be nice to see 14 come along. A barrel update that'll be kind of fun. Our bourbon is also going to do a Penelope blend. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Penelope. Their brand that we'll be trying here. They have this. We have this nice fun bottle. They do a barrel strength. They also blend cast, so we'll be doing one of their own blends, much like Bourboner and Breaking Bourbon. Oh, hey Brian, good to see you. I guess I can pop these up. Auditor, yeah. So Clarine Rocher. Oh, that's the Dunder Mash one. Okay, it's the Ancien and Ancien or whatever how you pronounce it is the aged. Some fun stuff there. Hopefully you're cooking something nice, Brian. I had pot stickers and stir fry for dinner, so a little cheat meal, but it was pretty fun. But back to Penelope, our bourbon would be doing a Penelope blend, which is a combination of mash bills of different ages that are all kind of blended together and bottled at cast strength, which should be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that might wrap it up for news. I think it's been pretty quiet lately, which is always a good sign. No news is good news. Yeah, I'm trying to think. New riff is still for November, but I think next week is the week I'm gonna have to bite it and make it a remote selection. I don't think we can get out there, which is kind of a bummer. I love going to New Riff. A lot of you guys have been out there, but it's just not going to happen. Anyways, yeah, why don't we get into the meat of things then? Tonight, I figured while I was on my own, John is off doing fun beach things. Instead of cancel things, I figured I'd kind of stray out a little bit. And we will talk about some under the radar barrel strength bourbon. Because there's a lot of barrel strength bourbon. Most of it is known as Stag Junior, Elijah Craig barrel proof. I don't know, so maybe MGP barrels, GTS, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, it's kind of easy to miss some in the weeds, including this fun little guy from Traverse City. That's always kind of interesting. We've got the Traverse City here. This guy is 4 years old. We'll set him over here. We have Penelope here, which is kind of a bright bottle. I want to say that, yes, these are all definitely at least 2 years. So a little tenuous, a little on the young side. Then we have Bullet. This is Barrel Strength Batch 4. So I just picked that up this weekend. This is probably the oldest. I'd have to think that this is probably 7, 8, 9. So maybe a little bit of a rough toss-up. And then after that, we'll talk about one of my other favorite things. John's also been gin guy, but this is a barrel-aged gin, which is kind of fun. That barrel-aged gin character kind of bridges the gap between whiskey and gin for a lot of people. So I think it's kind of fun to talk about. If things get too crazy, I'm super fucking pumped. The Efficient Agave or the Ensemble Formigué for aficionados, which is this little yak on the back. We picked this probably a month or two ago. This came in pretty quick. This is a Formigué Ensemble from Erogenes Garcia, and it was picked specifically for a group that I'm in. So that's always fun. I love to end the night with agave because it's so fresh and ripe. So, oh, hey, look, John. God, I hope you're on a beach somewhere, John, with like 5 beers around you in your hands. Let's see. Yeah, hopefully you're on the beach with just surrounded by beer cans. But the background on Traverse, Brian asked a great question. We'll start with them. Traverse City started. They're out of Traverse City, Michigan, which is about as far north as you'd want to go in Michigan. Fun story there. I actually vacation there every couple of years, more often than not lately. I have family up there. But due to COVID, I cannot go up there. So I thought I'd bring a little piece of this here. This is a 200 milliliter bottle of their barrel strength. They used to do selections. They were all MGP, 12, 13. I know of some 11s and 10s. Cast strength MGP bourbon, nothing new. This is their own distillate, and it's at least 4 years old. So not only is it cute, I've already broken the wax. I've learned from previous mistakes, especially during the Chattanooga stream. I had to get a pair of pliers for myself to open one of the bottles. So we'll just take this off here. The wax comes off really nicely once you melt it. But this is from Traverse. Disclosure, Traverse did send this. They sent it with their cherry whiskey, and something else. Maybe they're straight bourbon. I forget. The cherry festival's coming up, which I always hate to miss. So they got in contact with me, and that was a good time. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to commit to. People have been like cutting their hair and like dyeing their hair and like getting tattoos. I think we're just going to see how crazy the mohawk gets. And I'll leave it up for like one event after COVID. I'll go to like a conference or something and speak with like some crazy rocker mohawk. Penelope, let's see. I want to say that they're out of Tennessee. Is it true? Oh no, they're in Bardstown, Kentucky. So, distilled at MGP, bottled in Bardstown, Kentucky. They have a normal bourbon, which is kind of a bourbon light. They like to make it approachable, mixable. I think it's on the young side. I didn't particularly care for it. I like the barrel proof quite a bit more. So we'll see how it compares. It is still young, but it's getting older. It's clear that they've gotten some advantage out of blending with different grains. It's helping them kind of defeat the youngness here. Barrel or bullet, I guess. They're mostly rumored to still be coming out of Four Roses, so that should be kind of a heavyweight. Single barrels are mostly Four Roses, at least with the yeast and stuff, so that's kind of fun. Auditor says the A-Fish Agave is really good. Yeah, I'm really jealous that a lot of people got theirs before I did, which kind of sucks because I picked the damn thing. But it was kind of fun to see people's thoughts before my barrel showed up, or my bottle. So we'll probably cap the end off with that. That's delicious and fresh. So yeah, why don't we get tasting? Set the bullet aside for now. I'll pour a couple of these out. Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea. I actually let my fiance cut my hair, and she's been doing okay. But as it gets longer, she threatens to make a deadly mistake that will leave me with no choice but to shave it. Let's see. We will get set here. But yeah, this will do for now, I guess. Cool. Yeah, so why don't we get started? I'll pour a couple of these out. We've got the Traverse. So I opened this guy because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to. Rocking a nice GLD. Great Lakes Distillery is a fun local place. They make great gin. Their whiskey's okay. They make great brandy. I'll leave this guy in the Milwaukee glass. One of these days I'll get like a nice table and mount the microphone and stuff to that. Let's see, we'll get some Penelope going. That's a satisfying pop. Let's see, that guy's good to go. We'll take the bullet too. I'm a big fan of the bullets right now, for no reason at all. They're $32 to $35 in Wisconsin, which is kind of bonkers. I think they're 50 to 60 everywhere else, which is kind of crazy to me. So these are all pretty much the same price, which is why I kind of lumped them together. I know one of them is probably a bit less craft than the others, but it seems worth comparing. Let's see, let's squeeze these guys out. They're all non-chill filtered. All are various barrel proofs. The Traverse City comes in at 58.3. The Penelope is a bit lower at 58.3. So actually the exact same. It's the bullet that's the huge standout. This guy's 61.7. So a pretty big difference there. Let's start out here. Cool. So this is the Traverse. This is their own distillate. This is not MGP. You can probably even see it. Bit too close. Sorry. 4 years barrel proof. They really like to be known as the right mitten. Sometimes with the wrong mitten, make that choice, but that's up to them. So yeah, let's see. On the nose, this is pretty interesting because it's not young like I really expected it to be. This is their signature edition, so it's not even a limited edition. I think you can pick this up anytime. Produced and bottled by Traverse City Whiskey Co., which is awesome. It's cool to see them. They sent some cherries along too. I haven't really taken a dive into those yet, but I don't make too many cocktails, so it might be a while. A little closed on the nose, but no malt, no youth, none of that weird gross grain. Pretty fresh. Corn, a bit of caramel. There's a little bit of youth here. A little bit of like greenwood, like sapling. Perfectly fine on the palate, though. It is a little young. It's lacking like a really dense oak structure, so it's more caramel, more grain sweetness. Great question from Hokie. Yeah, I think that's that's an interesting statement. The appearance of good craft bourbon whiskey from more places is a product of time and distribution. I think it's all of those things. Luckily, a lot of these guys have found ways to make money while they let their whiskey sit, which is really valuable. We had people like Tut Hill with baby bourbon and stuff releasing it after 6 months, a year. Even a local place did that until they started sourcing early times, which was a great decision from them. A lot of these places, I think time goes by a lot quicker than we expect. You think that one or two of these brand new places is legitimately brand new, but they've been around for 5 or 6 years, and that's perfectly fine if you have the right climate and the right barrels. Granted, we also have places like Nelson Greenbrier. I had their whiskey, which is the same whiskey I had 3 years ago, and it tasted exactly the same. It did not taste like it had 3 extra years on it, which was kind of disappointing. Meanwhile, Chattanooga is pushing out 2-year, 10-month barrels, 3-year, 4-year barrels that are, could easily be mistaken for twice the age. So I think it's kind of both of those things. It really goes to show the talent and patience pays off more, I think, than having better resources in a lot of places, unless you can afford to throw a bunch of whiskey down the drain, which is what 1 or 2 places do. But yeah, I think time and experimentation, once they latch on to what's good, if you can let it sit for 4 or 5 years, usually you're in the money zone after that. Wow. This is interesting. This is the first Traverse whiskey I've had at all. It almost reminds me of like a young Heaven Hill. Yeah, this could pass for an Elijah Craig. Maybe not barrel proof. Definitely not oaky enough to be an Elijah Craig barrel proof. But it's good. Boy, that's rich on the palate. That's actually really nice. Long finish. It is a little green. There's some green sapling. It has pretty nice Nice color to it. Not the thickest, not the richest, but pretty good legs, which is kind of nice. Honestly, not too bad. This is pretty good. It has a lot more oak than I would have expected for a 4-year bourbon, especially in a Michigan climate. But that's a good start. That's a strong start. Let's see. Let's grab the Penelope here. So this is the Penelope. Once again, bright red label. You'll see it. I know that the regular proof is distributed. This disclosure also came from Penelope as well. They sent this hoping they would arrive in time for when I spoke at Whiskey at Home, but it arrived the day after the conference, much like my microphone. So that was kind of disappointing, but all things happen for good. I got a lot of time to hang out with this guy. This is 4 grains, so a blend of 3 different mash bills to give you 4 grains, which is kind of nice. This is batch 4. The regular, I think, is 40% ABV. It's definitely not 43 or 46. So this is a pretty gigantic step up at 58.3. Even the regular was really light. It was thin. It wasn't particularly notable, but it was fun. It went really well in a whiskey sour, which is great. I think it's only about $30. So, there's some stiff competition in that range. This is, I think, 50, which is not bad at all. For craft barrel proof, I'll take it. On the nose, this one has a little more fruit. Fruit, honey, pecan. That's not bad either. Almost a little bit of lemon curd. So if I had to classify this against the Traverse was a little oakier, a little woodier, a little more caramel. This is fruitier, some nice, slivered almond, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of vanilla custard. Nice and light. Let's give it a taste. So this one's definitely thinner on the palate. Still some nice caramel. Really getting an almond note tonight, which is worth noting. I had pot stickers for dinner, so not too savory, not too spicy. Pretty bland overall, I think. A little on the salty side, so nothing polluting there. But yeah, this is a really nice almond note. Great question from Hokie. I prefer the Glencairn. I think it's the best overall. I probably have like 15 or 16 different glasses now. You can't beat the Glencairn. You can drink everything out of the Glencairn, even mezcal, which I drank out of for a really long time. Had a perfectly acceptable experience there. There's other things like copitas are nice, or I don't know. I have the Spy Glau, which are just ridiculous glasses, and those are fun, but they don't do anything that the Glencairn can't, which I think is really valuable. You can drink vodka, you can drink gin, you can drink brandy, drink mezcal, drink a lot of rum, bourbon. So this is pretty much the gold standard. If you go to Bath and Beyond, I think you can get these for like $6 all day long. Brand new Glencairn. I know they start to rack up free ones from different events and people after a while, but $6 for the glass of choice at Superior is a no-brainer for me, especially when some other glasses are like 30, 40, $50 a pop, which is kind of ridiculous. This is nice. I haven't had this in a while. It's been sitting on the shelf, which is starting to be kind of a problem. I'm starting to lose stuff in the back of the shelf. I might have to put some lights in. But this is nice. Pepper. It almost has a toaster strudel note, like when those breakfast strudels. Like it's lightly wafer, got a little bit of bread, a little bit of sweetness, a little bit of vanilla. It's not like super pungent or anything, but yeah, that's got a nice palate to it. Wow, it sits on the tongue too, which is really nice. It has a great mouthfeel for something this young. I'd probably give the mouthfeel a nod over the Traverse City, but that's good stuff. It's interesting to me because the Traverse has more oak, which I'd expect from something that's twice the age. But blind, I don't know if that I could really. This would drink like a much older bourbon, which I think is kind of surprising. And I think that's what surprises me most about craft distillers. 5 years ago, a craft distiller could have a 2-year product that was just terrible and a 5-year product that was terrible. And even now, like Driftless Glen and Chattanooga and Bull Run, all have different products that are fairly young but tasting very, very nice, especially Chattanooga. Driftless Glen, I didn't pick a barrel over 4 years recently, and they were all really strong, really enjoyable. Let's see. Oh, man. Again, with great questions. Craft distillery, have you noticed with the greatest improvement? You can probably hear my dog barking. There's another dog outside. Man, this is a really tough one. I avoided a lot of distilleries early on. I'm gonna have to come back to this one. I'm trying to think of who's the least bad that wasn't sourcing before, because that's the problem. A lot of these places had MGP before, released their own bourbon. It was pretty bad, and went back to sourcing. Like Smooth Ambler is a dead giveaway for having terrible distillate and then going back to sourcing. I mean, Driftless Gun's been pretty good. I haven't habitually had their stuff for years though. Yeah, we might have to come back to that guy. Chat. I had some chat a while back. That was pretty good. Big House, I want to say, but Big House was sourcing beforehand. That's a tough question. New Riff might get the nod. I tried some of their stuff right away and I thought it was terrible. I had it in 2017. And then we picked a barrel in 2019 and it was really, really good. So they might have to get the nod here. Rising tide raises all ships. A lot of places are getting significantly better with every single year. Like I would kill to go 5 years in the future to talk about Driftless Glen and stuff like that, but that's probably where I'd lean. I'm trying to think. J. Henry, but J. Henry's source. I mean, J. Henry is a Wisconsin distiller, but they're contracting through another distiller, so they don't really count to me. They don't count. But yeah. We'll give New Riff the nod for now. I think that they're probably the most advanced out of all these. Wilderness Trail though they were rough early on. They're really good now, so maybe them. This is the bullet here. So unlike the other two, this is no age statement. We have no idea how old this is. I can make guesses all day long, and I'd probably still be wrong. This is bottled by the Bullet Distilling Company, not produced, so we know that this is sourced. And it's coming from Kentucky, since there's no alternate state of distillation, which is no surprise. This is batch number 4. Hooray! I'm still tracking down 1 through 3. I'm gonna do a big lineup one night. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But right now I have 4. I think I have 5 blender select and a couple of single barrels. Yeah, that's another great point here from Hokie. I'll put it up. Pinhook is a great one. I hadn't really considered that too much. I know that they sourced early on. I didn't love their stuff really young, but it got better. Bohemia I had recently. I thought that was totally fine. That's a really nice development from them. Their rye has been okay. But overall, they're making a lot of really good progress. Yeah, and that's the problem. Some of these craft distillers are doing the same thing over and over. Because, I mean, admittedly, it probably works. They're probably selling as much product as they want locally. But that's not really going to be good enough, especially with how much competition there is. And I know that COVID's probably introducing a lot of pressure to do better and stuff like that. So it is kind of frustrating. We do have a local distillery that's like that as well. Pardon me. It's allergy season here, so my throat is constantly dry. Yeah, this is the bullet here. This is batch 4. If I had to wager a guess, I'd have to think this is at least 6 years, maybe a bit more. But cheers for spiffy packaging. I wish I caught onto these a little bit earlier. Wisconsin's blowing them out for $33, which is insane. On the nose, this one has a lot more pepper, a lot more clove. Really spicy overall. Floral, spicy, lavender, honey, toffee, almost a faint cardamom. You know, I wouldn't confuse this for gin, but it has some really floral notes that I get in gins that I really like a lot, which is nice. There's no ethanol in the nose for being almost 8% higher than the others, which is great. Nice. So that is quite a bit hotter on the palate, but also quite a bit more complex. Whew. Ooh. Yeah, you feel every percent of that 8% ABV. This is hot. This is not nearly as hot as Booker's. It's also not nearly as strong as Booker's, but the Penelope kind of sneaks by you. That one's really, really well mannered for the proof. The Bullet's not sneaking by anybody. Man, that is rich though. It's funny. For those of you that don't know or you're tuning in late, Roz is my dog. I have a healer mutt named Roz. We rescued her, short for Rosalind Franklin, the esteemed medical doctor. All of our dogs are named after scientists. Roz actually hates spirits, which I think is kind of funny. She's super interested to give him a whiff, to give him a smell. She loves to get all nosy. She loves beer. She will knock you over to get to your beer. But spirit, she does not like it all. She'll nose it. She'll get close. She'll get a big sniff. But one time I caught her, I left a copita of mezcal on a bar stool next to the couch. And she came on over and got herself a drink and then was inconsolable. She hated it. She got to her water bowl, took a big drink, was rolling around on the floor, trying to wipe off her face and stuff. She hated everything about it. So now she avoids. She knows what glasses have spirits and stuff, and she avoids them as much as she possibly can, which is good for me because she knocks stuff over all the time. Man, the complexity here. I'm gonna let these sit a little bit too, but the Bullet's really nice. Like I said, it's a bit hot. I would say that it's that you're drinking a barrel proof bourbon more with these than both the Traverse City or the Penelope, but the quality is definitely there as well. This has really nice oak to it, especially for being a NAS product, a no age statement. Wow. There's something about it. It's not quite as spicy as Four Roses, which I think gives some people pause on believing. I mean, this has really fantastic color though. Sorry, you can see my monitors and stuff. This has nice legs to it. Tons of honey, tons of orange, tons of almond. There's a clove, leather, tobacco note here. One of those really nice floral spice. It's got a toffee dessert. That's nice. That's almost unfair, I think. I would totally advocate. I mean, I think at $50 are a bargain. I planned to buy one at $50 and then thought it was mismarked and then realized that nope, that's just what the Wisconsin price is here. I would totally get one. I think that for a 6 or 7 year barrel proof bourbon that's probably either made at Four Roses, made to spec by Four Roses, you can't go wrong. $50. I would drop it right now. I like batch 5. I'll have to compare these. This is one of my first drinks out of batch 4. So I don't know that I have a preference yet. I'm working on getting a 3, a 2, and a batch 1 here, which I think would be a lot of fun. That might be a good segment to kind of compare them all, especially blind. But it's hard to go wrong. $50. I know that we've all spent more on less. I've made much riskier buys for $50. Especially, I mean, whiskey, yeah, but in some other spirits, I've definitely taken riskier buys. This is nice though. This, I think this will probably be the winner, which is no surprise. But I like the Traverse City. I might honestly give the nod to Penelope though. This one kind of continues to surprise me, especially for, it could always be older than 2 years. I know that they say at least 2 years. I know that they're blending with older, but that has nice character. And the key too is that none of these are malty. None of them are young. None of them are gross, moist. That pulpy note that I get out of baby bourbon and some other terrible stuff like Few Spirits. Few Spirits, you know who you are. Yeah. Bullet's nice though. Yeah, Penelope's nice, but after the Bullet, that's a tough comparison. But I think it's worth pointing out too that, if anything's going to compete, this is going to be pretty hard to top, especially in the price range. $52. Wow. That is not a price I see often. That is really, really low. Let's see. Apparently my awesome dog that we all love just puked everywhere, so that's great. She's been pukey lately. Yeah, I mean, 52 is a really good price. Sorry. So, dog's been weird. 52 Lafroig CS, that's almost as good as 42 Lafroig CS, which someone I know got here luckily and told us about after he bought them all because he is awesome like that. Lafroig CS is getting harder and harder to find. I'm seeing it like 70, $80. I mean, it's good for that. I mean, it's still 10-year cast strength, Lafroig, no filtering, no coloring, no shenanigans. That's hard to pass up. And at 10 years, I mean, it's $8 a year, which is still under my. I'll usually think about Scotch as long as it's less than $10 a year. I won't bat an eye too much. I picked up a Ben Riach 15-year Madeira. It was 15 years for $80, $83 with tax. And that's a no-brainer to me. That was like $5.50 a year. That's a great price. But yeah, you should pick up one of these bullet. Life's too short not to experiment a little bit. Yeah, Hokie says that he can send half the case. I think that'd be nice of Auditor, but we'll see if that ever shows up. Man, so of the three, this is a hard one. I really like the bullet. I think that's easily a winner. But none of these are bad. I would happily drink each of these. I've already reviewed the Penelope barrel strength. I've not reviewed the bullet. I haven't reviewed the Traverse City. I'm really looking forward to spending some more time with this guy. He's tiny, which is great. I wish places made more 200 milliliter packages, for people who have 50 bottles or 100 bottles or 150 bottles or 200 bottles. You don't always need the whole bottle because it's going to sit around for a couple of years. So this is perfect. 5 or 6 tastes, share a little with friends, make a cocktail. That's the best size. So if you're a brand and you're listening, make more small bottles, please. Or do flasks. 200 milliliter flasks are fantastic. Yeah. Let's see. Hokie says, hard if it creeps up to $100. I don't know. I think $100 is my max for something like that. Auditor says that 200 milliliter and 3 milliliter. Those are the great size. I mean, if I really like something, I will buy it in a full strength, like something like this. I'll happily buy that. But for something I haven't tried before, if it's super bizarre, yeah, I'll always take the small option, even at a greater price. A Game Latte, for those of you that don't know, is a mezcal subscription service. They send 2 375 milliliter bottles. Yeah. Every 2 months. And it's usually weird. It's wild. It makes it really affordable. I think that's cool. Whiskey's starting to catch on, but they're going slower than mezcal. So yeah, of these three, we'll come back. We'll give these a little airtime. But I think I know who my winner is, but we'll branch out here. It's weird not having John. I don't have anyone to bounce stuff off of except you guys, so feel free to hop in anytime. Griffo, this is some of you guys are gin people too. I like to kind of focus on spirits that all audiences might like. So if you're a whiskey guy and you hate gin, or you're a whiskey guy and you haven't tried gin, this one might be really interesting for you. This comes from Griffo Distillery. This is the first time I'm having it, so we'll experience this one together. Let's see. Hold on. There we go. Ooh, that's a good pop. Holy crap. This is a barrel-aged gin. Let's see. This is actually a limited release. It's kind of fun. It is finished in Chardonnay barrels. So it's going to be kind of scotchy, finished in a wine barrel. Kind of whiskey-like, finished in a barrel. It doesn't say how long, but this is at 45% ABV, so pretty good price. Pretty good strength. Batch number 4. I'm trying to think if they tell us how long, but we don't know how long this was aged, but it's fine. It's clearly pretty dark, as you can see. In fact, in a toss-up between Traverse City and the gin. They're not too different in color. So I doubt that this has been sitting for 4 years, but I would believe that it's been sitting for at least a year. And the fun part is this kind of combines, you can see the color a little bit more here. Looks nice. Gin obviously is very juniper forward because it has to have juniper. For those of you who don't know in the chat, in order to be gin, it has to be distilled as if it were vodka. So it has to be a neutral grain spirit. You can infuse it with anything you want as long as you also infuse it with juniper. The juniper component is what makes it a gin. It has to be at least 40% ABV in the United States and most countries. Otherwise, you end up with a liqueur if there's sugar involved. You can go crazy. Some places have just a couple, like Death's Door here in Wisconsin is only 3 botanicals, 2 besides juniper. A lot of places do 12, 10, 19. I've seen a lot of 17. I've seen 20, 40, 50. I know Monkey 47 is 47, stuff like that. But ooh, it's interesting because a lot of gins that are barrel rested or barrel aged come across on the nose as if they were whiskey, which is fun. There's a lot of cinnamon, a lot of clove, a lot of fresh cedar. Wow. Almost like a potpourri, like a lavender, cardamom. Let that sit for a sec. There we go. Another great one from Hokie. Whiskey rum to suggest that's not Foursquare and not Triple X. I think that's great. I always have a hard time recommending Foursquare because it's so similar to bourbon. And I think that's great if you're a bourbon person who wants another spirit that tastes exactly like bourbon. Foursquare is great for you. If you're interested in brandy, like Loopy Boo is fantastic for that, but they don't really show you the full essence of that spirit. That's why for rum, I really like to recommend like Mount Gay, Appleton 12. Those are some of my favorites. I'm trying to think. Smith and Cross is fun because it's funky, but that's not always a great crossover. Here in the Americas, I even like to recommend Hotel Tango Wild American Rum that introduces a little bit of funk. Privateer is pretty good. Privateer is really good at showing a very neutral cask rum, which is great because the rum gets to speak for itself. It's not bludgeoned by the barrel. Outside of that, those are probably my biggest. I'm trying to think. Scarlet Ibis is okay. It's very cocktail-y to me. But those would be the big ones, I would say. It's hard. I mean, everyone loves Foursquare, and there's that whole complexity. Foursquare is great and tastes a lot like bourbon. I think that it doesn't show off quite as much character as it could. But, yeah, I don't know. I really like Mount Gay. The black barrel is really nice. Appleton's good for a little bit of funk. That's fantastic. Wow. This reminds me a lot of Christmas Tree. This is the first time I'm having it. This is the, if you're just tuning in, this is the Griffo limited edition barrel gin. It's a Chardonnay barrel. It doesn't say whether it was, first use, second use. It held Chardonnay at one point. Don't know the provenance of the Chard. My guess would be probably a Cali Chardonnay, but it's hard to say. This is incredibly floral. This is very much like a pine wreath. Toffee. It's so floral. It's cinnamon forward. It's very white grape. Interesting. Let's give it a taste. Wow. That is wild. This is that is not like whiskey at all, which is interesting. This is a super cinnamon, pine, cedar. This is really woody in a nice way. It's very wet wood, like a wet aromatic wood, which I know sounds a lot like when we say musty young wood from a craft whiskey, but that's not the case at all. We'll have to give that one a couple sips. Reviewing gin is interesting. One of the fun things is when I get a gin, I usually try and ignore as much as possible. Most gins I don't know anything about. If a producer sent a gin, I wait to look at the information later. As long as I know it's gin, I know that that's good enough for me. Some of them are really interesting, like let's see, what was it? It was Vigilant District by Magnus. I had no idea that fruits were involved until afterwards, which I think was super cool because I was like, am I crazy for thinking that this gin has like apple and strawberry and pear? And no, sure enough, Fiji apple was involved and stuff like that. I think is super interesting. I mean, you always know that juniper is going to be involved, so I think that it's probably hard not to expect some juniper essence to be a part of it, but you know, it's not too bad. I think it's weird to me. I mean, if you're drinking something that's infused with very aromatic stuff, I'm not too worried about confirmation bias because it doesn't smell like vodka. If you smell vodka, it smells like cream, maybe a little bit of wheat, maybe a light pepper, and ethanol. That's it. So it's pretty clear right away, you're drinking gin. And with gin comes juniper, and then everything else after that is such a mixed bag, especially in America, where people are innovating like crazy. Man, this is wild. This is bizarre. This is going to be fun to work through. I can't wait to try this in a cocktail. I would not peg this as Chardonnay. This honestly smells like Christmas. This smells like spice drops. Spice drops, Christmas wreath. This is crazy. This honestly reminds me of when you step into the IKEA warehouse and you get all that wood, that composite wood note together. Man, that's wild. I noted this guy. Holy crap. Oh, long finish. A little bit hot. Not too bad. Feels pretty fair for 45%. The aftertaste is long. It's really woody. Lots of cinnamon, cassia, maybe a little bit of melon. Mostly like a honeydew melon, like a cantaloupe honeydew. Vanilla. Wow. That is this is one of the weirdest things I've drank in a while. And I've been drinking a lot of weird stuff. I'll have to have a tasting with this involved. This would be fun to send. Send is like part of a flight if I do a tasting here soon. And do it totally blind because I mean this is clearly gin. I think people would pick it up, but the actual what of it I think would go pretty well disguised. So that's crazy. That's awesome. So yeah, let's see. We've tried a couple bourbons. We've tried some gin. I think it's fun too. I mean, this is pretty dark. A lot of people think that they hate gin. A lot of people truly do hate gin. A lot of people drank a lot of gin in college and can't taste gin anymore. So it's kind of fun to see where they've discovered other tastes they like, especially in whiskey and Scotch. Whiskey, mostly being like an American whiskey or a Scotch cutting over. But the cassia, cinnamon, vanilla notes, and a lot of barrel rested gins really help make that gap. Otherwise, the juniper is just so powerful; it kind of takes people's attention away. Oh, this is a good one here. Get a drink. The cocktail I like to use best. I always start with replacing like whiskey with a barrel gin. So like I'll do an old fashioned. I also really like Negronis made with a barrel aged gin. It adds kind of an interesting character. I really shy away from gimlets, fizzes. One of the most interesting things I think I've tried has been doing like a margarita. So, fairly standard, doing a triple sec, doing some lime, maybe doing a tiny bit of simple. Instead of using tequila, using a barrel aged gin to see how that kind of carries over. It makes like a weird fruit sour that's kind of delicious. But that's probably the biggest one. Negroni's nice. Sometimes a martini, but usually the cassia overpowers olive and all the desirable elements of that, which is kind of tough. I think it's fun though. Usually with a whole bottle of gin, I try out a bunch of cocktails. I love making cocktails with gin. Aviation's always weird. Bee's knees is kind of weird. There's some there's some bonkers strange stuff you can do. If you're just tuning in, this is still the Griffo Barrel Aged Gin. I would do an old fashioned. You can do a Manhattan. I wouldn't really do a Sazerac. I don't think there's just too much going on there for gin. Oh hey, DJ, how's it going? Welcome, Rare Bird. No John tonight, and he's on vacation, so I'm just kind of running the show. We've drank some bourbon, we've drank some barrel aged gin. Great question from Auditor. I did have the Watershed gin. That was the Guild with chamomile. Really interesting, very heavy on the chamomile. I have their 4PL here as well, which I'm looking forward to getting to in the next couple of weeks. That Gray Whale gin, some of the automatics from Oakland. I'm trying to think what else. I have the Copper and Kings gins, which I'm looking forward to. A new batch of Mill Street. Yeah, there's a lot to go. I think we're about 2/3 of the way through the Gin Invitational. So that's 70 days of gin. I think we're just crossing the halfway mark, or we're getting there this week. So that's kind of been a fun experience outside of whiskey. So yeah, let's see. Maybe we'll move in a little bit. We'll get a little bit weird. I have one more pour. I think I'll go for here. Let's see. I'm running out of Glencairns. Usually I have a bunch stacked up, but did not do the dishwashing tonight. We'll reuse this guy. I also brought on too, I think this guy's pretty fun, the Baker's 13 year, which goes, I don't think a lot of people have cut on to Baker's, mostly because the old Baker's made no sense at all, at least to me personally. Let's see, we'll do a little pour of this guy. Cool. For those of you that are wondering, the chintzy little hang tag says this is 267-825. I don't know how many barrels they're doing. I don't know if there's 50 or 100 or 2. I'd imagine there's probably a few. I see these hanging around quite often. They're pretty expensive, but 107 proof. I think it's kind of cool. Baker's used to be 7-year, not single barrel, 53.5% ABV. And that was it. It was more expensive than Knob Creek. It was younger than Knob Creek. It was about the same age as Booker's. It wasn't as expensive as Booker's. It was almost the same price for a while. But it just kind of hung out. It wasn't particularly good. It just felt like it existed in the middle. And after I bought a couple of bottles, I realized that I liked either the flavor of Knob Creek better or Booker's better. So I stopped buying it for the last 4 years or so. This is the new 13 year. So it's truly 13 year. If you get the 7, it's usually about 8.5, I want to say. But this is kind of a new take on Beam. These are all single barrels, which is kind of fun. There'll be a lot to track down, even though they're kind of expensive. But more single barrels aren't bad. We know that Beam is powerful enough to move their bottles and stuff around. So they know how they're doing with barrels and whatnot. Wow, that's rich. I've been getting into this one a lot lately, so it's pretty familiar to me. What I really like is that the Beam funk is almost completely absent here, which is kind of interesting because it's so prevalent in Knob Creek. It's pretty prevalent in Booker's. It's always been kind of there. I noticed a lot in the Repeal batch that I just picked up one of. But it's almost got like a vitamin kind of fresh melon fruitiness on the palate, which is really nice for something that has this much oak to it. I think that the profile is pretty nice. Mouth feels nice. Heat carries well. Yeah, it's got a lot going on. I hate to take a page out of Fred's book. It really sits well on your jaw. It hangs out for a while. It is certainly pretty rich. That's a nice dram. It's kind of hard. I've really enjoyed this one lately. It's fun. And sometimes I have it while I'm just winding down. I think that no dram is too nice to just kind of, if that's what you're in the mood for, pour it and get used to it. I think saving whiskey is kind of a strange idea because there's a bus out there with my name written on it. Someday it'll hit me, and I don't want to leave any good whiskey behind. Wow. That's pretty nice. So maybe we got about 10 minutes left. If you guys have any questions, feel free to pass them over. I know this was kind of a non-typical streaming evening. One of these days I'll take a vacation. John will have to do the same thing, but it'll be nice to have him back. We've got some pretty wild stuff for late August, September, October. I think that's going to be awesome. Got some guests, got some new bottles, some new limited editions. But in the meantime, good. My dog's doing all right. In the meantime, maybe we'll take a really weird departure. We'll drink some mezcal. If you've had mezcal, feel free to let me know. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What did you have? This is made by Matinogenes Garcia. He produces it for Cinco Sentidos, who is also goes by El Desalado in Oaxaca and abroad, which is kind of fun. This is what's known as an ensemble for those of you that aren't super into mezcal, which means that it's produced from multiple forms of agave, multiple species. This one is Baquiche, Tepestade, Majiquiche, and Coyote, which are really cool. Most of those are wild, so they're going to be super fun, super wild, grassy, funky. My favorite picker selection, that's a tough one. They're all kind of like kids. It's hard to pick. I don't have kids, but I assume that's what it's like. New Riff was fun. That had a nice personal aspect to it. Doing the 1973 Jean-Luc Pasquier was super fun. That was a spirit that I don't think we expected to get that good a cask of. That was just bonkers. It was a 46-year-old natural cast strength cognac for $150, $140. It was too good to be true. But we landed it. And honestly, I really like doing this Cinco Sentidos. It won't be our last. It's fun. Mezcal is interesting because it's unlike industrialized whiskey. The money you spend when you buy a bottle truly goes to the mezcaleros. Hopefully, I do have a copita. It goes to the mezcaleros. It goes to the bottlers. A little bit goes to CRM if they certify it, but it's not going to some Goliath multinational corporation. It's not going to Diageo or Beam Suntory. Oh yeah. Which I think is really cool. It's cool to see, it's traditional, it's respectful in most cases. It's innovative. It's just totally different than anything else in the spirit world. Yeah, Hokie, if I'm not mistaken, is just starting to dive into mezcal. The fun part of mezcal is that people wonder why they can, why should I spend $120, $150, $200, $100 for a clear spirit? Obviously there's no aging that's happening here, and people wonder why it's worth that money. And the fun part with mezcal is that the aging is all done on the front end. You can't plant an agave like you plant corn or barley or wheat and have a harvest by the end of the year. You have to plant it and come back in 8 years, come back in 10 years, come back in 12, 14, 18, 20, 25 years. Some Tepestade are best at 25 years. And as they mature, the sugar content is more available. It's more prominent, and that's what you need to kick off fermentation. So it makes sense, if you're waiting for a 20-year agave to come to age, of course it's going to be expensive. There isn't much 20-year agave just hanging out. But yeah, all the aging's done on the front end, which is truly interesting. So this is this fun little glass. It's called a copita. I'm just kind of fucking around now. This is the fun part where I've gone through what I wanted to. Now we just kind of drink and talk. But it's called a copita. They're very traditional, made out of things. Anything that's handy, a jicara is made from not a gourd, but a large fruit with a husk. That's like a big bowl. This is made from glass by In Situ down in Mexico. They're fun. They're open. They really let you to nose without closing in too much of the vapor. Mezcal is very aromatic. It's very powerful most times. Since this is made, yeah, there it is. Since this is made mostly with wild agaves, in fact, yeah, pretty much. I mean, Tepestade is kind of on the line, but these are very wild, very green. This is going to be super flavorful, super aromatic on the nose. I get a lot of like jalapeno, green bell pepper, fresh rainwater, scallion, which is really interesting. Some light mango. It's crisp. Yeah, crisp. A tiny bit of cream sweetness. Overall, very vegetal, very fruity. Bright is a word that I would use that I think is really interesting. it's complex. There's certainly a lot going on. And the fun part is, copitas don't hold that much. So you can have 5 or 6 different pours of different mezcal or of the same mezcal, and get to try them in all a different light. Wow. So the fun part of this is I had a bottle to test when I was talking to Cinco Sentidos. A bottle to taste, gave some to our panelists, gave some to our retailer to try and make sure everyone was on board. And then a friend of mine, a very good friend, had a baby. So I left some. Mezcal is very big for celebration. So I left him the end of our sample to celebrate that they had their baby in quarantine. We got together in their backyard and had a good time. But it's probably been a month now, maybe 6 weeks since I've had this. I've been waiting for it to arrive, really with bated breath. Another aspect of mezcal that's really interesting is there's only 70 bottles of this. This specific expression. There's not 200, there's not 150, there's not 600, 800, like some scotches. There's 70 bottles. When it's gone, it's gone. This mezcalero, mezcal is the man or woman. There are a couple women who make fantastic mezcal. They're the people who make it. They make it in a run. They usually store it, and then someone comes to buy it. Like we bought 70 liters of this ensemble from Adogenes. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. That's a tough one for me as a white guy who speaks primarily English. We bought the whole run. So it's kind of cool. Like you see tiny runs. Some are 30 bottles, 40 bottles. Some are a couple of 100 bottles. Nuestra Soledad has a couple runs that are in the thousands. But mostly you're getting a small, really creative, really artisanal spirit. And that's kind of where the FOMO aspect comes through. Like, I got to buy this. There's only 60 of them, and I got to know what it tastes like. Man, is it good. I'm glad I got a couple of them. On the palate, it's a little less green, so a little less vegetable. There's like a nice roasted garlic, a cream sweetness. You get kiwi fruit, maybe some light white grape, pepper clay. The jalapeno bell pepper note is there, but it comes to me almost as like a cocktail onion. Like this reminds me of a really dry, really cocktail onion forward, like a martini, which I think is really fun and interesting. Wow. Pretty good. Long finish. It's interesting. The Karwinskis. Karwinski is a wild type of agave. The Baikish and Banjakish come from. Sometimes they can be super smoky, super acrid, almost plastic forward. And this has none of that. This is really crisp. If you don't know, this was picked. There you go. You can see the yak. This is for aficionados. That is our logo. And there's some agaves around them since it's a four agave ensemble. But the yak is on everything that we pick, which I'm involved with. So it's kind of cool. Maybe we'll drink some cognac next time, or we'll do something fun. But man, that's delicious. So this is a great question from Hokie. Let's see. I don't really think that there is. I mean, I wouldn't do like 50. Right now I have a double-digit amount of selections in the air, and that's manageable. I think it really comes down to how much you enjoy doing it. I really enjoy doing it quite a lot, so I make the time for it. I give up some sleep, give up some naps here and there. But, I think that we probably wouldn't do more than 25. And really, if no one buys them, what's the point of doing a selection? We're trying to bring in fun spirits that people want to buy and drink, especially since we don't make any profit. Like I have a full-time job. I don't make any profit on selection. So, if the community wants more and is continuing to want to buy more, I'm always good to buy one. it's fun to experience the process and experience new things that you can't just go buy at the liquor store. But if we were doing 50 of these at a time, that could get a bit unwieldy. But between bourbon, scotch, brandy, rum, agave, maybe a gin, you can get a couple of each going at a time. Our bourbon is huge right now. We've got a lot going for that, which is fun. I think that there's a point, maybe I'll have a couple kids. Doing 50 selections while you have a couple kids isn't super unwieldy. It's not possible. It's just there isn't enough time. But for now, the sky's the limit, which is super fun. We're gonna do some more mezcal. Gonna do some fun stuff this year. Our bourbon's got a shit ton coming. There's just too much fun stuff to buy, and that's kind of the nice part. I want to buy all these things to begin with. So the fact that we finally can is really interesting. Great point from Auditor. Yeah, we've been doing quite a few lately, but they've been popular. They've been delicious. So there's no slowing down. Yeah, that is nice. That is crisp. So yeah, I'll hang out for 2 or 3 more minutes. If you guys have any more questions, we'll hang out. But yeah, long story short, go back through Traverse City. Nice work. 4-year barrel proof. It drinks above my expectation for something like that. I'd put it maybe just 1 rung shy of the New Riff. I think New Riff has the edge on them a little bit. Penelope is doing really nice as well. Good stuff there on a fairly fresh bottle, which I really like. This hobby's it's interesting. You have to really be careful how you explain it, because a lot of people just assume that spirits are a tool to intoxication, which they completely are. But to a lot of other people, it's easy to explain as a hobby. Hey, you really enjoy scrapbooking. You take time and resources to experience what you get out of that in a reasonable quantity. And as long as you express spirits the same way, having small sips of 5 or 6 different things is a really educational way to learn more. And in the cases of things like rum or mezcal, you're helping to proliferate an art form. I think that's probably the best word. It's art to some people, and I think this is very much a work of art by Atenogenes. You're experiencing culture, and you're experiencing the work and hard work of different aspects of life, and becoming more cultured is never bad. But it's hard. Some people just assume you sit around and get drunk all the time, which is not the goal. Certainly not. Some people it is, but we aren't really those people, I don't think. And we have some people like that around, but I don't think here this evening. But it's difficult. You always have to understand that people are complex beings, and you kind of have to understand what their bias is ahead of time. But if you put out a couple things and say, hey, taste a few drops of this and a few drops of that, and tell me what you like and don't like, they start to kind of peel back the layers and see that it's about comparing, it's about learning, it's about experiencing, instead of throwing back 5 ounces of whiskey and then going bowling or something, which is a really important point to make. We've been here for an hour, and I've tried 2 ounces of whiskey and a tiny bit of mezcal and a couple of drops of gin. It doesn't have to be a night-ending thing. It's all about tasting. It's about experiencing. It's about sharing. It's about learning. And it's about gifting. It's really fun to give people spirits and just watch them experience them, and think of the first time you had those things. Yeah, I would. We'll rock through these. Storm. Yep. Hail indeed. Hail yak for sure. Liquid art, I would totally agree, Dan. It's an art form. I think distillation is like, people have a great appreciation for wine. They have a great appreciation for beer. Pulling out, a Sangiovese from 2005 and sharing with your friends is a very, that's viewed as a generous, upstanding, very common, appreciable, gesture. So doing the same and pulling out and saying, I have a beautiful bottle of whiskey. Why don't you share some with me and we'll talk about it, or we won't talk about it and we'll talk about our days. Is a great way to bond with people. Spirits are a great human experience. People have been making spirits for a long time. It's one of the first things we learned how to do after the basics like fire and making the wheel. People have been drawn to consumable ethanol for millennia at this point. And it's interesting because it's impacted every single civilization, and it impacts our civilization now. And it's important to convey that. If you slam 6 ounces of bullet barrel strength and then explain that, you're probably going to lose your point. But and a great point too. That's kind of how I got started. I know that's how DJ got started. People know you're serious based on the time you put into it. And if you're trying to be an educator, you're trying to share your thoughts, you do it respectfully. You do it without being belligerent or nasty or mean. Your intentions are very easy to gauge, especially when you've had a couple of drinks and stuff. But it's important that it's easy to enjoy a lot of like cake or barbecue. But if you talk about it wisely with people you trust and respect, and they see you're coming from a place of sharing, then you're probably going to be okay. Man. Although it is really hard not to just drink a lot of this at night, because I've been waiting for this one. And it's so delicious. But yeah. So apparently Auditor was getting into stuff and take. I don't know how to feel about that, but I'll take that as you can be attracted to whoever you're attracted to. But the subreddits, subreddits are super handy. If you've not come from Reddit, then you have a lot of really great resources that are just a click away. The subreddit r/mezcal, so reddit.com/r/mezcal, MEZCAL, is a great resource. There's bourbon, there's scotch, rum, brandy, cognac, Armagnac, gin. There's even a vodka subreddit. That one's a little weird, but there's subreddits for everything. And there's places you can learn. And the best way to learn is to... there we go. Yeah, stupid, delicious mezcals. The mezcal is too good. It'll get to you eventually. But there's plenty of opportunities to learn and grow. And Reddit is a great place for that. And the best way to learn is to teach, write about it and take corrections with a good heart. Take them with a willingness to learn, and you'll make great strides in no time. Man, that is nice. Cool. Well, I'll wrap things up. Things have been going pretty well, I'd say. The mezcal was a great way to end tonight, as they would say in Oaxaca, Tishbe. So a cheers to good health and to history and tradition and respect. Delicious. Yeah. To recap, Traverse City Whiskey, really good for 4 years. Really nice. Penelope, pretty good. Really nice mouthfeel. Really nice finish for 2 years. Bullet takes the cake. Not unexpected. 4 roses at 6-7 years, maybe a little bit more. 61%. Really nice. Weird sleeper was Griffo Chardonnay Barrel Gin. That stuff's wild, and with the holidays coming up, that should be pretty interesting. And then the Cinco Sentidos Ensemble, Ensemble from Miguez, with the Baiquiche, Majiquiche, Coyote, and Tempestade to kind of round things out. As far as barrels go, we will do New Riff in the fall still. We're going to do a Penelope blend in the next couple of weeks, which should be super fun. We'll blend a custom thing, including a corn whiskey. Russell's Reserve is going as planned. Smooth Ambler has been ordered. Those should be coming in. And Knob Creek are coming in as well. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to hit me up. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Reddit. You can send me an email. My site is t8ke.review. Did I make a banner for this? Well, we'll make one here. Let's see. Nah, it's okay. T8key.review. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Twitter, and we'll talk about some spirits. But thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate each of you guys, and I hope that you're staying healthy, you're staying entertained, you're staying fun. Next week will be another week without John, but I'll have a guest with me, which should be super fun. We'll drink some wild stuff, we'll drink some crazy stuff. We'll chat a little bit, and then the week after that, John will be back, and he and I have some really interesting stuff to drink through coming through. So thanks for you guys dropping by. Cheers to you, Rare Bird. I hope you guys are I think you'll enjoy a segment coming up. I have the rest of the Master's Keep, so we'll be doing a first taste of that. But so this is Take signing off. Let's see here. Well, yeah, this is Take signing off. I hope you guys have a great night, and feel free to get in touch if you have a question or anything.